Good day, we're Group Nase and Reyes, and welcome to our walkthrough of a machine learning project that predicts heart attack risk using support vector machines. We'll guide you through the data preparation, model training, tuning, and evaluation steps, all using Python and scikit-learn. At this first cell, we start by importing important Python libraries such as Pandas and NumPy, which we can use for working with data. We also use Matplotlib and Seaborn for data visualizations. We also use from-sklearn so we can load SVM models, preprocessing tools, evaluation metrics, dummy classifier, and model selection tools like GridSearch CV. In this second cell, this is where we load our heart attack dataset into a data frame. This cell also checks for the number of rows and columns and prints out the first few records to confirm everything loaded carefully. For our third cell, in this cell, this gives us a better look at the dataset by checking column names, types, and the presence of any missing values. Well, everything seems clean, no nulls, and the data types are appropriate. For our fourth cell, we analyze the target variable heart attack risk. Well, in the output, it shows how many samples belong to class 0, which is low risk, and class 1, which is high risk. It reveals that the data is slightly imbalanced, which could affect model performance. In this PIP cell, this is the cell where we calculate a Pearson correlation matrix to understand how each feature is correlated with heart attack risk. The results help us which variables might be strong predictors like diabetes and smoking. For the sixth cell, this is where the cell where we separate the input features X from the target label Y. It also prepares the test and training sets, making sure the target variable is not included in the feature set. For our seventh cell, here we scale the training and test data using standard scaler. This is critical because SVM models are sensitive to the range of input values, so standardizing ensures that features contribute equally to the result. For our 8th cell, a dummy classifier is used to establish a baseline. It always predicts the majority class, likely 0. We then evaluate its performance, which can tell us what accuracy we'd get if we predicted blindly. For our 9th cell, here we define a reusable function to evaluate any model. It calculates accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 scores, and it prints out a confusion matrix. This will help us fairly compare each SVM variant later. For our 10th cell, we train a support vector machine with a linear kernel using the scaled training data. After training, we evaluate its performance using our earlier defined function. It tends to predict more high-risk patients, giving high recall but low precision. For our 11th cell, we now try an SVM with a radial basis function kernel which can model nonlinear patterns. After training, we evaluate the model and observe improved performance, better precision without losing recall. Now for our 12th cell, here we use this polynomial kernel, and based on its results, it identifies most high-risk cases. It has very low precision, which means it labels many low-risk patients as high-risk, signs of overfitting. For our 13th cell, here we combine the evaluation metrics for all three SVM models into one data frame. This allows us for easy comparison across accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score. In this 14th cell, we visualize the model comparison. We plot the matrix as a bar chart to visualize which model performs best. The RBF kernel usually offers the best trade-off, good recall and balanced precision. Now for our 15th cell, here we set up a hyperparameter tuning for the linear SVM using GridSearch CSV. We certified 5-fold cross-validation, and here the goal is to improve the performance, especially recall by finding the best C value. For our 16th cell, here we apply the best linear SBM. As we can see, we extract the best linear model found from the grid search and evaluate it again using our metrics function. It continues to give strong recall and slightly better precision than the default version. For our 17th cell, next we pull the best RBF model from its grid search and evaluate it on the test data. Well, it maintains high recall and achieves a good balance between false positives and true positives. For our 18th cell, we test the best performing polynomial SBM from grid search. However, it still predicts almost everything as high risk, confirming it's not a good fit for this dataset. Now for our 19th cell, here we interpret the model by looking at the linear SBM coefficients. As we can see, these weights tell us which features contribute most to predicting heart attack risk, like smoking and diabetes. And now for our last cell, finally, we visualize the decision boundaries for our classifiers using only two features, which is age and cholesterol. As we can see, the linear SBM gives a straight line while the RBF and polynomial model shows more flexible curve boundaries. Well, this helps us understand how each model thinks when making predictions. And that's it. Thank you for watching on our walkthrough on heart attack risk prediction using SBM.